Of all of the curveballs of 2025, the one I expected the least is for Wuthering Waves to go from Nier and Death Stranding vibes to straight up Dungeons and Dragons. From techie, dark, post-apocalyptic themes to castles and bards and battalions, Ciaccona actually looks like a character straight out of a D&D campaign. A bard with horns and red hair. Actually, this might just be my Baldur's Gate character. She actually reminds me of the D&D movies cast as well, the tiefling girl that I can't remember the name of. I don't know, you guys should watch the movie though. Today, I'm going to be teaching you everything there is to know about Ciaccona, from what she does to how to play and build her. My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and let's talk about Ciaccona. So, fun fact for you, in some dubs of the game, Ciaccona is actually referred to as chaconne, which is a music composition style that emerged in the late 16th century that usually involves short, repetitive bass lines, which are then used for variations on the original melody. And much like her name implies, her song is actually incredibly easy to improvise over, since the bass lines are predictable and repetitive. I'd show you myself, but I'm washed up, and more importantly, I don't feel like it right now. Anyways, that is relevant to her kit, because Ciaccona's Resonance Liberation makes her start singing, and during that song she has different effects that she can apply, almost like variations. By hitting the Spectro button, she will apply Spectrofrazzle on every beat, and by pressing Arrow, she'll apply Arrow Erosion. If you swap off Ciaccona, she'll continue to perform because she's a professional after all, and if you hit Spectro before you swapped, she'll continue to apply Frazzle. If you don't hit anything at all, she'll continue to apply Arrow Erosion. This rolls her in as one of Renacita's more flexible supports in the debuff category. If you want to learn more, look up Ciaccona Rule 34. Also, in her Liberation, she gets immunity to interruptions and a 50% damage reduction. This isn't a huge deal because you can swap off her anyways, but it also makes it so you actually have time to look up Ciaccona Rule 34. On top of that, Ciaccona is able to apply a stack of Arrow Erosion with her basic attack 4 combo, and after hitting that 4th stage, she then takes the stage herself by spawning what I like to call a Ciaccona. Now that I think about it, Ciaccona and Naruto aren't so different, because both of them have Shadow Clone Jutsu, and both of them can be hot women. When Ciaccona creates a hologram of herself, that hologram gives a 24% arrow damage bonus to nearby team members, and it won't stack despite you being able to summon more than one Ciaccona at a time. This character serves as a support unit for some Spectro teams, but mostly Arrow teams, because of her various buffs, including the one on her outro skill, which gives a 100% arrow erosion amplify to all nearby characters for 30 seconds. Due to the lore and the quest line, I'm pretty sure that Kartathea is going to be a wind unit, and so it's pretty safe to assume that Ciaccona will be a good support for her. She also enables the Renacita weapons that require debuffs on enemies, and can even use the gun herself. Fun fact, there is no gun aiming attack despite Ciaccona using a gun. Ciaccona gets 1 Forte bar from her intro, and 1 Forte bar from doing her basic attack 4 combo. Once you have all 3 bars filled, hold your basic attack button to power creep Yang Yang. Ciaccona's skill dishes out a bit of damage, but also applies a stack of arrow erosion on enemies. But more importantly, if you interrupt a part of Ciaccona's kit with her skill, she'll instantly spawn a Ciaccona for that instant arrow damage bonus. Lastly, Ciaccona has 2 inherent skills, but only one of them is actually valuable in any way. Her higher level one gives her Forte Circuit a damage increase by 30%, and her lower level one gives her a shield when she uses her Liberation. To be honest, that one is about on par with Zhao's C4 in the other game, except you're not spending money for it.
Wow!
Hi, post-apocalyptic Brax here, and if you're watching this, it's all over. But anyways, I wanted to quickly explain what Arrow Erosion is. Arrow Erosion is a damage over time mechanic similar to Spectrofrazzle. With Ciaccona's release, we actually have our first ever dot sub DPS character, so I thought it would be good for you to actually know what it scales off of, because it's not on the wiki for some reason. The things that matter for Arrow Erosion are 1, the level of the unit applying it, 2, the level of the enemy for the defense formula, 3, if there's any defense ignore, 4, if there's any damage amplify, and 5, how many stacks the enemy actually has. More is better. Anyways, I quit computer science because I hate math, so I'll leave it at that, but that's your brief introduction to Wuthering Dots. Now, as far as talent priority goes on Ciaccona, I'd recommend leveling up her Liberation first, then her normal attacks, Forte Circuit, Skill, and Intro. I think the biggest selling point for me when I saw Ciaccona was that opening sequence of the 2.2 story quest. She's just so expressive, and after they were done with all the dialogue, Curl Games left her standing there, like that. One of the other major selling points for me was how easy she is to build, since she has a couple different sets to choose from, and some of those echoes you may have already farmed. Ciaccona's best in slot sets are the Gusts of Welkin set and the Moonlit Cloud set. Gusts of Welkin gives arrow damage to your team, and the active wearer whenever they inflict arrow erosion. It's the go-to for her in arrow-based teams, and with Cartithia coming out soon, it's probably gonna be the one you want to farm for most. But in some teams, like her team with Peeb, equipping her with Moonlit Clouds for the attack increase on Peeb is really strong. If you're running the Welkin set, you want to aim for a crit rate or damage fleur-de-lis 4 cost, which will give you bonus arrow damage. Then you want 2 arrow damage 3 costs and 2 attack 1 costs. If you're running Moonlit Clouds, you'll want to use the Heron for the damage bonus on your next character, but the stats of everything will stay the same. Crit rate or damage 4 cost, arrow damage 3 costs, and attack percent 1 costs. Luckily, Ciaccona doesn't need much energy regen in arrow teams, and even outside of them, you only really need up to like 120%. So for substats, you want at least 2 energy regen substats, and 3 is even safer, but other than that, it's just the regular crit rate, damage, and attack percent, and for the last roll, liberation or basic attack damage is also fine. So overall, this is the style of build that you're looking at. She's built like a damage dealer, and she does a fair bit of damage, but she's also supporting your Wuthering wife. While the Ginger's set is important for her teammates, her weapon is more important for her personal damage. But there's a couple options that also enhance your teams. So let's talk about the guns that Ciaccona won't even pull out in combat. Ciaccona and I have something in common because she doesn't really pull her guns out, much like how King Arthur couldn't pull me out. Ciaccona's weapon is a pretty vibrant green, which is almost enough for me to swipe on it just to get in the Christmas spirit when I'm playing Carlotta in December this year. But Bardicus has a signature weapon that's actually quite strong on her for your teams, since you can get a team-wide arrow damage bonus and also inflict an arrow res shred on enemies with it. It's also a crit rate weapon, making her easier to build overall. But if you don't have her weapon, it's no big deal. Or at least I'm going to tell you that so you feel less bad about skipping it for Cartithia and Lupa. Obviously, other premium pistols will be good too, just by virtue of them being limited 5 stars, so Carlotta's weapon is second best. But after that in the ranking comes Static Mist, a crit rate weapon with a high base attack. If you didn't pick that one as your free 5-star, do not worry, because Romance in Farewell is craftable for free-to-play players, and it fits perfectly with Ciaccona's kit, since it gets its bonuses from enemies having debuffs. Nova Burst is the next best thing, but I highly recommend farming the resources to craft Romance in Farewell, which you can get the recipe from at the Averardo Bank in Raguna. For your reference, here's a chart comparing Ciaccona's weapons. Intro skill into basic attack 3 and 4, then dash cancel, then basic attack 3 and 4, then skill cancel, echo, forte, liberation, now you're done. Ciaccona has one of the easiest and most consistent rotations in the entirety of Wuthering Waves, but to execute it, you need to get used to dash canceling and skill canceling. Essentially, her field time consists of her intro skill for 1 forte bar, basic attack 3 and 4 for the second forte bar, and by dash canceling the 4th attack, you can start on your 3rd and 4th basic attack again to get that last forte bar. Make sure to cancel the animation of her 4th attack with her skill to summon a Ciaccona while also getting her Concerto, Energy, etc. Then use her Echo followed by her Forte Circuit, then Resonance Liberation. And all of this should happen in about 5 seconds. She's a very forgiving character for field time, but if you can get through rotations quicker for more damage, then why not? As for teams, we don't have Cartithia playable yet, but I'm like 99% sure they'll work together. So I expect a team of Arrow Rover, Ciaccona, and Cartithia to work out perfectly. For current teams though, you have the full Arrow team with Arrow Rover, Ciaccona, and Gian, where all of the arrow erosion is coming from Ciaccona, but Gian still sees the regular arrow damage bonuses and gets to dish out more damage. This team can actually outdo the Mortifeed combo with Gian just due to Blood Pack's edge and how strong that is on Arrow Rover. But you'll see more solid results overall when we can max out Blood Pack's rank. At S1, it is still pretty dang close to Gian Mortifeed teams, and you don't necessarily need to scrap your Mortifeed as long as we don't have those copies. And personally, I don't think of Ciaccona as a Gian specific support. If you do have Peeb, you can play Spectral Rover, Ciaccona, and Peeb together for solid team damage, since Ciaccona also increases Spectral Frazzle count for those teams. There are plenty of characters you can play alongside Ciaccona, but I will say her buffs feel fairly specific. The main main benefit of her is that she works for Spectral Frazzle and Arrow Erosion teams, and there aren't too many options for those at the moment. As usual for Wubot characters though, with more future units, everyone will get stronger. Ciaccona also becomes much stronger for Arrow teams, even outside of Erosion with her S2. So let's go over sequences next. And for my next trick, your credit card will hit its limit. If you're pulling copies of Ciaccona, you are truly based. It's also probably easier to get duplicates of Ciaccona than other characters since gingers don't have souls. If you're wondering what dupes do for her S1 gives her immunity to interruption for 3 seconds after using her skill, and using her basic attack will buff her attack. It's honestly not a game-changing sequence in my opinion. S2 though is a much bigger deal, because during Ciaccona's Resonance Liberation, your whole team will get a 40% arrow damage bonus, which is a bit stronger than running an extra damage 3 cost echo on every arrow character. If you're an arrow main, this one is really good value. S3 is kind of weird because it can change your already short rotation into something else, maybe even longer. It gives an extra skill charge and also makes it so that you get 2 Forte bars instead of 1 when you finish your basic combo, so you can Forte sooner. Now, I haven't personally gotten to experiment with this change, but I'll leave a pinned comment if there's any major optimizations for it. S4 is a massive 45% defense ignore for Ciaccona for her Forte circuit attack and for her Resonance Liberation, which improves her personal damage by a lot. She's already not the highest damage dealer on the team, and S4 won't make that the case, but it does help. S5 is a 40% liberation damage bonus to Ciaccona, as well as a team-wide damage reduction, more personal damage, and a safety net, though I won't lie, I don't think team damage reduction is super useful on most characters. S6 makes Ciaccona's do a significant amount of damage when Ciaccona uses her liberation, and if you're a whale, this pretty much seals the deal for your DPS Ciaccona. Now, one issue I have with her sequences buffing her a lot instead of her teammates, except for S2 of course, is that Ciaccona's personal damage isn't so significant that she would prefer those buffs over becoming an even stronger or more flexible support. I would much rather her S1 go towards something like her working with other elements. Maybe she would give team-wide defense shred, or maybe her S1 would give you amplify on all of the dot effects, but that's just me. I know sequences on her let her dish out a lot more damage, and with the proper buffs and sequences, she could probably be a reliable main DPS. Or you can hand the controller to a dungeon main and they could probably solo tower with Ciaccona at S0. When it comes to getting Ciaccona's weapons or sequences, I personally don't think I would go for sequences over her weapon, just because her weapon is a pretty solid buff and it's a crit weapon worst case if you ever needed one of those. Now, I know it's hard, but stay strong, Ciaccona pullers. I know they've sandwiched your favorite character between Zani and Kartathea, which is just absolutely cooked, and I can't believe they would do this to us. But don't give up hope. I'm sure those 3 pulls will get you an early 50-50 win, trust.